Hello, and welcome to Rock Your Block and today's segment of Ernestine J. Wilson Real Estate. I am your host, Ernestine Wilson. Our guest today is a certified professional inspector. He is certified by the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors. He works in Maryland and DC. I would like for you to meet my friend and owner of Jacobsen Inspection Services, Jim Jacobsen. Hello.
Hi, thank you, Ernestine. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Yes, awesome.
So, let's get started. Now, I know you do home inspections in Maryland and DC.
Yes.
But you also teach classes. And the classes that you teach are at 2 colleges in Maryland. And the classes you teach are for home inspectors. So you actually teach home inspectors who need to get their licenses through the state of Maryland.
Right. A lot of times there are students who want to be home inspectors, and they're pretty much a lot of Baltimore area people are coming to it. The class that I teach is at the Community College of Baltimore County, and the state requires that you have a 72-hour class, and the class that I teach is an 80-hour class. At the end of that, we teach marketing. We teach things that may be on the test for their final test, and the final test that they have is a pretty comprehensive test. It's a 4-hour test, and they have a lot of questions, concerning the home inspection industry.
Okay. Now, there's one thing that I've noticed about the home inspection industry, and that is I've never had a woman home inspector, and I've been in the business many, many years.
Right.
So why do you think that women have not embraced that profession?
Well, the thing is, what I find when I teach the class, I find that there's a certain amount of expertise that is needed to pass the final exam and to really qualify for being a home inspector. In society, they kind of teach us not to do that kind of thing, with women in terms of going out and being on a framing crew or an HVAC contractor. And the people who are in my class, I have many women in my class, and I've had several of them who are quite good, and they're well versed, and they did pass the test, and they did become home inspectors. So in my current class, I do have 8 students who are women, and they're doing quite well.
8 out of how many?
34 maybe. Yeah.
So I wonder why I have never run into any of these women home inspectors.
There are several out there that are quite good. There's some that actually own home inspection companies.
So you're saying several, so really not many?
No.
And I'm not blaming you,
not
okay?
Many, not many.
You didn't do it.
and a lot of it has to do with just, a lot of times in a house, the male will do a lot of the work around the house, and they gain knowledge through that. You have to know specifically what is going on with each unit, each component system of the house, and that's what becomes part of the home inspection. And if you haven't dealt with that, it's much more difficult. And what I do when I teach the class, I always recommend that they go to InterNACHI and look at their website. They have classes there, and take the corresponding class that they're taking in conjunction with the class that I teach, because I only have a limited amount of time, and covering everything that is within 72 hours can be quite daunting.
What's the name of that place that you say?
InterNACHI.
InterNACHI. Oh, that's the
Yes.
place that does your certification.
Certification, yes. They have a wonderful website, and you can take all the classes that you need. They even have training They have a place called the House of Horrors, where they have a structure that is built, and it is just a mess, you know. And you're supposed to identify all the components and the parts that are deficient, you know, in the training process. So it's quite interesting.
So I have to just ask you one more question about that. So as a real estate person,
Yes.
who I've been on hundreds of home inspections,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't do any work around the house like manual labor
Right.
or fix anything.
Right.
I change light bulbs, that's about it.
Yeah.
So are you saying that it would be difficult for me, you think, to...
It would be harder for you than a person who's in the construction trades. It would be harder for you. It's not impossible, because the thing is, desire is really what gets you past the you know, the threshold when you're dealing with this.
So what is your curriculum like when you're saying, it seems like you're thinking that one should be in construction in order to really have an easy time in your class?
Yes, they have an advantage, either in construction. A person like you who has been through a lot of home inspections, you already know what's going on in a lot of these things, and it's the ability to look at something and say this is right, or look at something and say this is wrong.
So what is your curriculum like in the class?
Well, our curriculum is pretty much set up by the Maryland Standards of Practice, and it tells us that we should have a certain amount of hours for exterior, a certain amount of hours for structure, a certain amount of hours for roofing, HVAC, plumbing and heating, and so it's pretty well spelled out by the state of Maryland. And one thing is we make sure that we follow those standards of practice, because the standards of practice was set forth by the commission, you know, for real estate appraisers and home inspectors, and they put together a nice list that says you have to do this, and if you don't do this, then you did not do a good home inspection. You know, if you let's say you're an electrician and you go in there and you do, wow, you did a really great job on the electrical panel, and you did a really great job on all these other electrical components, but if you miss something in the plumbing, and you didn't fulfill the standards of practice, like for instance in the plumbing, you have to list all of the types of materials that are used in the construction in that house. So if you have PVC, you have CPVC, you have polybutylene, you have any one of these components, it has to be in your report. So you have to list all those. You have to know and identify all the components in the house, and it can be, you know, I tell my students all the time, go to Home Depot. Go to Home Depot, look at the materials, then pick up the brochure. Now, are you going to do that?
No, I changed my mind.
No, but that's part of it. You got to know what the materials are, how they're installed, and I'll pull up videos all the time as to you know, installation videos, problem videos, you know, where you have situations where a concrete wall is crumbling, and how that's repaired. So, because the thing is, you know, you don't have to tell them how to repair it, but you have to be able to observe it and say that it has a problem, and maybe identify what that problem is. And so we look at it, observe, we report, and then we put a recommendation in there sometimes, you know, so that they look at it, you know, so that a licensed professional can go in there and repair it.
So do you physically go out to any properties and take a look at them, or is it all in-class training?
Well, the thing is, the state of Maryland has said that we need to stay in class. We do not have hands-on. We don't have a hands-on facility. Okay. Some of the classes for home inspectors are in class. They have an HVAC room that has all the components, and they can pull it apart, and they can do all that sort of stuff. I did take a class way way back in 2000, and that was a 48-hour course, and it wasn't required at the time. But I came from a home building industry, and I had a deficiency in HVAC. So I wanted to take that class so that it would give me a nice rounded way so that I can jump right into the home inspection world. And that helped. That helped a lot. And that class did have those components right there in front of you. And it did have a situation where we went out into the field and looked at a house. Now, what we do at the college, we'll take one, while it's daylight, because it's an evening class, while it's daylight, we'll go out onto the campus and look at a structure. And what I ask the students, I say, well, okay, now I'm the client, I want you to describe it to me and tell me exactly what's going on here and who to refer this to. And and they're going, they're kind of.
That's what I would be doing.
Yeah, but the thing is that gives them that experience. Mm-hmm. We also do something which is quite interesting. We do a phone etiquette, where we pretend like we're on the phone, and this is in class, and we take a phone call and try to try to book the inspection. Some people don't have any business sense in terms of how to answer a phone, and so we teach that, and we also do something where the student is role playing as an inspector, and the student is role playing as a client. And what we do is we put that into play, and they pretend like they're the client, and they ask what's going on with the home inspection, and the person introduces themselves, because every single encounter is a job opportunity. Because if I were to meet you for the first time, I would want you to say, "Oh, I want to work with that guy," and that's what you have to kind of go for when you're meeting potential clients.
Okay, now that we've scared everybody about these.
Scared them.
Maybe it's just me.
Okay.
What advice do you have for anyone who's considering going into this business of home inspections?
You have to live it. You have to absolutely live home inspections. You have to. Now, for instance, if I'm studying for a home inspection, a home inspection class, I would look at videos. Look at as many videos as you can. Go to as many resources as you can. And let's say you have a full-time job. When you get home, you interact with everybody, and then you go ahead and you study. The book that we have is 800 pages, and I highly recommend that they read it. No more scaring, okay? We're not going to do that. But it's 800 pages, and well, once again, as I said at the beginning, you want to have that, but you also want to temper it with the classes from Ernestine, because that's going to give you the best of both worlds. I will cover a lot in class, with videos and with personal experiences and with what's in the book, but I can only cover so much, and with a online class, that helps out too, and it makes it something that's really viable, and they gain that extra knowledge, and the people who have done that have been quite successful with it.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
Now, as a realtor, it's my job to guide people through the transaction,
Right.
manage all the details, and I experienced the last couple of years people not wanting to do home inspections
Yes.
because they felt like they would not have the advantage going into the negotiations for the property, since we experience multiple contracts
Right.
on the same property.
Right.
So what do you say to people who would like to forego the home inspection?
I don't like that. I don't like foregoing the home inspection.
Well, I think it's a bad idea.
Yeah, I think it's a bad idea, and I'll tell you why. There was one client who I had, and they did an inspection, but they did it non-contingent. So it was for information only. I highly recommend that. That is the best thing to do if they're going to do it. Because the thing is, it was a townhouse, and we did the inspection, and I went up into the attic, and you have what are called trusses, and trusses are engineered structures. And the home seller had gone into the attic, put plywood down on the trusses, and that made the insulation only 3 inches, and it should be R49, which is, it's 14 to 16 inches. And not only that, they took and cut out each one of those trusses, each one of the webs. So there was no structural support. And if they did not get that inspection, if they did not go for that one, that non-contingent, non-binding inspection, they wouldn't have found that.
So there was no support for the roof.
Yeah, normally you have a couple 2x4s like this, and then you have webs that come up from the side
Right.
and hold everything in place. And they said, oh, these are just nonsense. We'll just cut them out, and they cut them all out. There was like 20-some webs cut out. And you get a heavy snow load, you get a heavy wind load, that's going to come right down. And fortunately, they were able to, negotiate that, even though it was non-contingent.
Right.
Once you get a structural issue like that, once you get a mechanical issue like that, then you can go in there and you can take and negotiate those deals.
So tell me this, what are your obligations to someone who hires you to do a home inspection?
Well, there's several. I have an obligation to be nonpartisan. I'm working for, let's say you hire me, I'm working for you. But I have to be nonpartisan. You can't tell me, oh, can you condemn that water heater? No, I can't do that for you today, Ernestine. No, we can't do that. Because the thing is, you've got to be impartial. You've got to look at it objectively, and you've got to be impartial to both parties. And you can't have a conflict of interest. In terms of if you have worked, you can't ask somebody to, oh, I can fix this house. Once you've made that deficiency known, you can't do that. You can after 1 year, but either you come in as a contractor or you come in as a home inspector.
So what you're saying is that as a home inspector, you're not able to do any work.
None.
Now,
you can do additional services.
And what services are those?
And additional services would be radon. It could be checking the well, the potability of the water. It could be the septic. It could be inspecting bulkheads and piers and all this sort of stuff. But you've got to say it is not part of the home inspection, because that's an additional service. I do radon all the time, and I have to state it is not part of the home inspection. And you can do services, but you can't. You could do termite if you wanted to. Well, you got to be licensed, but that's another problem. So you can do any one of these, but you got to be pretty much certified. Radon does not require a certification. I do have an InterNACHI certification on radon, for my clients. I choose not to do mold, because I think that if you can see it, you can smell it, then you recommend testing. But I just don't do mold.
Okay. What tools do you use during your inspection? I
have a thermal imaging camera, which is quite interesting.
So what does that do?
Well, it can actually see temperature differences. So if I'm looking at a framed outside wall, I can actually see the studs because there's thermal bridging going on, and it's actually coming through the walls, and it's colder in the one spots where the studs are. I always use it to take the temperature of the HVAC system. I'll turn on the HVAC system and I'll go to each register and I'll make sure every single register has airflow. I carry testers for receptacles, and we as a home inspector, we can do what's called representative number, and that representative number means that I can technically test 2 receptacles in one room. I don't do that. I check every receptacle in that one room. The representative number is if I cannot get to that receptacle, then I use that as a representative number versus just checking 2 receptacles in one room. Also with windows, I check every single window that I can get to, and that really makes it good, because it's always going to be the window or the receptacle that you did not test that is not working.
So you test the windows to make sure that they lower and close and
Go
that they
up and
remain.
down, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the other tools that I have, well, I have a screwdriver. I am in the process of getting, I'm in the process of getting a FAA drone license. I had one earlier, 2 years ago, and I'm doing that right now. I'm studying for the test. It's a aeronautics test. Now if you want to talk about a hard test, so this is a hard test. You have to be able to identify weather. You say, oh, weather, that's easy. No, it's not, because it's all numbers and it's all letters, and that tells you what the weather is. Mm-hmm. And you have to be able to read aeronautical maps. And
I've seen you with ladders.
Yeah, I have a ladder. I don't go on a roof. I don't go on a roof, and that's where the drone's going to come in. I can fly a drone up to a chimney. I can look down in the chimney. I can see what's going on, and that's going to really enhance the inspection process. The drone that I had a couple years ago was really big, and I just got one, and it's nice and small. It's only about this big.
So you've got toys.
Believe me, I have all kinds of toys.
So when you are doing an inspection,
mm-hmm.
Usually you're with buyers, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Where do you want the buyers to be? Do you want them to follow you around, or do you want them to go sit somewhere quietly and wait until you finished with your report?
I want them to be my new best friend.
Okay.
I want them to be right next to me, because what I do when I go through an inspection, I don't just look at something and say, and just glance at it. There are some inspectors who will say, "Oh, go have coffee with your real estate agent," and they'll do a summary at the end. I want that person to see what I see. I want that person to know, if let's say we go to the heating and air conditioning system, I'm going to explain how that works. I'm going to explain how the condensate drain works. I'm going to explain how the flue works, and what kind of system they have. Is it a high efficiency furnace? Is it an 80% furnace? Is it an old draft furnace? So I want to make sure that they know, because my focus on this is education. I've been teaching for years and years and years above and beyond this. I did a lot of, taught a lot of music, and I've always focused on people and giving them the most information I possibly can.
Well, when you're outside a house, because there are factors outside the house that
mm-hmm.
could affect the inside of the house
yes,
adversely.
Absolutely.
So what are you looking at when you're outside walking around?
Well, my first part of the inspection starts 3 blocks away. I'm looking at other houses. I'm looking at houses in the neighborhood that are okay. This house is. I've already looked it up on the internet. I know what this house looks like. I've already gone through all the pictures on the internet. I know what's in it, and so I'll look at the house and I'll say, oh, this house is very similar to that. Oh, look at that. It has a mineral siding on it. This has vinyl siding on it, and so I know a lot about the house before I even pull up. By the time I pull up, the first thing I do, I look at the general appearance. I look at the ridge line see if it's sagging. I look at the shingles, I look at the siding, foundation, the grading going to the house, and if it is sloping towards the house or sloping away from the house, you know, the condition of the driveway. I walk around and look for cracks in foundations, and I check the electricity coming into the house. I'll see if there's any plumbing that is coming into the house too, like excuse me, plumbing going out of the house. So you'll see a clean out in the front of the house, and you might see a clean out at the street. And so I look for all that, and I remark about that. If it has a well, I'll look at the well cap to make sure the well cap is a bug-proof cap, because if you don't have a bug-proof cap, you can have E. coli going into that well.
That's scary.
Yeah, that's another thing I scared you with today.
Yes, I know. It's just full of scares. This isn't Halloween.
See, but the thing is, you know, and this is very similar to a home inspection, because people will see a lot of stuff. I try to focus it, I bring it down to the end, and then I'll say, this is our summary. And when the summary's over, people relax.
Well, guess what?
We're out of time.
I have so many more questions to ask you.
I have so many more answers.
Will you come back?
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure.
It's been wonderful being here.
Yes.
Time just flew.
Yeah.
So our time is up. Thanks, Jim. If you have any questions about how to contact our guest, please see the information scrolling below. Thank you for watching Rock Your Block and today's segment of Ernestine J. Wilson Real Estate. We'll see you next time.